a filmmaker. Just it's so empowering. It's inspiring. Tell us about the film that you made, please.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. I mean, that's the most exciting thing that's happening in my life right now. It's like,
Okay, good. 'Cause it's pretty exciting to us.
it's really exciting. So I'll start by saying this. On Wednesday, June 19th, on Juneteenth, here in Austin at stateside at the Paramount, we are screening my short film, If They Took Us Back.
See, look at her. She's directing. Holly, I be putting this stuff out whenever I can get to it. Now you done directed me. I gotta publish this thing like
you gotta
soon.
publish this thing quick because we gotta get these tickets sold out.
She ain't got no chill.
Yeah.
Is there anything better than a trip getting ready? Nope. For a long journey where our podcast released a new epi, searching for a fade fiend, new fixation. Giving this a subscribe is the same sensation. Started with the day ones, they gave us fuel to support the season. Could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here for a reason. Notification bells, text some friends, all to let you know. Check your Bluetooth, connect, talk your wisdom out.
Episode 185, Film It for the Memory, with our guest, Holly Charles Pearson. Holly, thank you for joining us today.
Man, thank you for having me today.
So, Holly, we're 185 episodes in, and
wow,
I have never had a filmmaker. So,
really?
I want to start right then and there. We're gonna come back, but I gotta know. 5th grade, your teacher asks you what you want to do in life. Did you say filmmaker?
No, I did not. You know what's funny is like I was getting ready to say, he just said 5th grade as though he kind of knew me. There were some things that changed, probably closer to 4th grade, but I had a 4th grade teacher named Miss Phillips who just believed in me. And not just believed in me, but believed in who I was as a person and believed in my power as a Black woman, And of course I was a child then, but she loved the way that I expressed myself. And she was the first person to actually say that it was of value.
Yeah.
And so Miss Phillips was like, oh, she would say, write a poem or, write this. Or I remember at one point she was like, we're teaching pronouns to the class, but she would call me by my last name, which at the time was just Charles. And she'd be like, Charles, I need you to go home and write a poem or a rap, whatever you want it to be, and show the kids tomorrow how to do a pronoun, or what a pronoun is. And the next day she would set me in front of a class and trust me to be able to teach my peers.
Oh.
But I would teach it through my words and my rhyme and, in my style and my cadence and my rhythm. And she appreciated it. And she kept asking me to do things and, add things to the Black History Month program. And every time I wrote something, she lifted me up. I don't remember her doting too hard where it felt like favoritism, but it felt like she believed in me. And it felt like she was trying to explain to me that how amazing it was to be Black, how amazing it was to be a woman. And she started calling me her little Phyllis Wheatley. Oh. And I'm in the 4th grade. So she told me this is who I was. She told me that, you're just like her. You're just like her, and that did something to me. And so I knew then that I wanted to create stories. I didn't know exactly how that would pan out. I knew I was a storyteller. My grandmothers are storytellers. I mean, more just orators, like they're the ones who tell great stories.
Yeah.
But at the time, I think she was really showing me what was worth talking about. She was creating this sense of pride in myself. So once I did, once I lived a little bit, I realized, man, I want to tell stories about people that look like me. And that confidence kind of came from her.
Don't they make a light bulb? Phillips make a light bulb? Because she shined the light on you. Like that she illuminated literally your life. Shout out, hey Phillips, y'all can go ahead and sponsor me. But I mean, that was amazing. It's profound at such a young age to get that kind of wind beneath your wings. I always wanted to be an educator, and it's simply things like that because I believe that the people that were in my life that allowed me to believe in who I want to be, to appreciate who I am, and then to push you forward.
Sure.
Okay, Miss Phillips. Wow, I'm impressed.
You know what's funny though? I didn't necessarily know I was going to be a writer at the time. I knew that she empowered me and told me, so to speak, like, you have something to say.
Yes,
it's worth standing in front of a group of people and presenting something to them. So she taught me that. And I didn't necessarily want to be just like her, but I ended up being in education. I ended up teaching for about 15 years. So I taught high school English for, a while. And then of course, like, because of that seed that was planted that I just continued to nurture and grow over the years, like, I went from teaching English to realizing how important it would be. Like, I was like, we don't have like an ethnic studies course in this entire district. So I created one. So I created the Harlem Renaissance and African American Literature course, and I started teaching that. And then eventually I got my master's and I started teaching African American experience through theater. So I was teaching that at University of Houston. And so I was storytelling and teaching kids how to write and doing all these things. And really all that was happening was that I was continuing to do the things that felt comfortable to me, no matter where my career went, ultimately, like, who I was shining through, if that makes sense.
It does.
And so, it wasn't until 2019 that I actually left the classroom. Now, by that time, I'd written a book and and that book turned into a TED Talk, and I had started a theater company, and I started doing stage plays in the Houston area. And I just loved my little community. They really trusted me to tell stories about underserved populations. And typically that's us, and so before I became a filmmaker, and I did want to be a filmmaker when I was in college, but I just kept leading up to it with all these variations of storytelling. And then finally during COVID, like everyone else, I couldn't present anything to audiences. From 2017, probably a little bit earlier than that, I had a stage play like every summer. And then when 2020 hit, it was like, we can't be together. We can't, that play, that's canceled. Yeah. And after rescheduling it for maybe the third time, right? Because I kept thinking like this virus, whatever this is going to go away. After rescheduling it the third time, I realized, okay, I'm kind of stuck in this, and I got to find a way to still tell stories. And
I was just impressed by your stick-to-itiveness. Holly, the rest of us gave up after once. You rescheduled 3 times. You're like, it'll go away. It'll go away. The rest of us in our hands. You are better than us. You really do stick with a dream. Man. The was done at the first day when stuff shut down. I told my boss, all right, so is the world over? Like,
I was just like, this can't be happening. And I just was like, honestly, when the world shut down, I'll just say this, we were already, we were getting ready to go into casting. We already had community hosts. We already had our venue. We had a schedule. And so I was like, no, we got to bring this back. As a matter of fact, no, we had already cast. I'm sorry. We had just finished casting. So there was just some frustration there with like, okay.
So Holly, you had some people that maybe this was their first leading role. They got casted, all their dreams came true, and then the bottom fell out and the world.
No, I'll say this. Well, I'll say I had some stage plays before that, but this was like our 4th summer with a new stage play.
Okay, same people though.
Not necessarily. There was one gentleman who had been in a couple of productions before, named Rock Living. He's in Houston, and he's just incredibly talented and just a stand-up guy, somebody you want to continue to work with. And and he was a part of that. I was looking forward to bringing him back. But I mean, we had finished our casting and we were ready to go. God. And so I was like, okay, that's all right, because we were supposed to debut August 20th, I think, of 2020, somewhere around there. I may have the date off, but it was in August of 2020. And I was like, oh yeah, this will be over by then,
Nope.
There's no way. Whatever this is, this little thing is gonna go away. And it just kept going and going and going. And I tried to reschedule. And then, at some point it was like I still needed that creative outlet. So I did a lot of writing here at the house when I couldn't do anything else. The first thing I started to do was, I'll say by the end of May, and I know the exact time it started is because of George Floyd. I remember everybody was frustrated during that time, right? There was a lot of pent up emotions, a lot of sadness, a lot of feeling helpless, a lot of we can't leave the house and all I have is my screen to look at. And every time I scroll, I'm seeing someone else who looks like me or like my brother or like my husband being murdered. Yeah. Right. And I remember feeling like I needed to it's like I needed a relief from the grief that I was feeling without ignoring it.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you do that? And so I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to write a love story, but I'm going to write it in real time as the Minneapolis protests were happening. Notice I didn't say riots, right? We were protesting. So I started maybe, I think if George Floyd passed on the 25th, I probably started maybe 3 or 4 days later. So right at the end of May, I would stay up late and I would write a new episode to an episodic series called Just Breathe. And it was too, because for me, I felt like we still needed to see Black love. And realistically, Black love is magical, but it's also filled with pain and that understanding that we have of one another, right? Yeah. And so I felt like that's what we were all going through. And so I thought there was a way to bring something to show the positivity of being Black while also not ignoring the fact that there are some painful realities that we deal with. And so I had this couple kind of falling in love at the same time that they were dealing with something in Minneapolis and they were protesting together. And so I wrote every single night and then I would record it, record the audio. And then I would have one of the producers for the film now, who actually is one of my former students, believe it or not. We just never left each other. She's incredible. She's like a photographer. She's a filmmaker. She's the jack of all trades. But at the time, I would always have her like, hey, you upload this to YouTube the next day. So she would always, I would record, send it to her. She would upload it. And every day at noon, anyone who was in the email distribution for my theater company, right? Because we couldn't have a stage play. I just said, I want to keep them entertained. So they would get an email around noon of the new episode.
Yeah.
And so I did that every day for about 2 weeks, which is exhausting. So, I did it for about 2 weeks. And then a friend of mine reached out, John Whaley, an incredible artist, painter from Houston. He reached out and was saying like, hey, during Juneteenth, I've been asked to paint a mural. And he was like, I just wish we could do something together. And he had created art for some of my stage plays before. And I said, I don't know, like I'm writing this thing called Just Breathe. And he was like, well, let's find a way. And I remember thinking, well, you know what? I have 3 hours worth of content from that, from that series. Yeah. How about while you paint the mural, I'll sit out and I'll do it live. And so we did that. And and this is literally Juneteenth of 2020. So at this time, there was a Black-owned gallery in Houston that opened up. And people brought lawn chairs because we expressed to them they still had to, social distance. And so literally like my friends behind me painting this mural of George Floyd. And I sat for 3 hours and read the episodes. And people were so happy to just be out of the house and be comfortable. So they had masks on and they brought lawn chairs and so that they were, they could place them strategically and move away. And we did that for 3 hours there at the Bazong Art Gallery. And so that was a bit of an outlet, right, for me and audiences. But it was like, well, what happens after this? And so I kept writing. And during that time, that's when I finally got the confidence to go into depth and write my first script. That's the film, If They Took Us Back.
Yeah. Wow. I gotta ask, so as an English teacher,
Mm-hmm.
So, something tells me you're not normal, or we don't think that you're normal. How can people send you text messages? Like if somebody got a crush on you, how do they slide you a little love note? It seems like that's gonna be edited. Or like even your friends, they send you emails, be like, "Oh, she gonna get me." Nah, I'm gonna write my normal way. Can you turn it off when you're an English teacher?
Absolutely.
Notes, emails.
Look, you know what's funny is that you just asked a Black woman who is a master of code switching, but also who appreciates dialect, right?
Yes, ma'am. Uh-huh.
So what that means is I'm gonna turn it on and off, whatever is appropriate for my audience at all times. And but I feel like all forms of communication are so beautiful and should be respected. I remember I used to teach my kids that, you know.
Yeah.
I would teach my kids that. I remember there was a young Hispanic girl, and whatever she said, it wasn't, you know, grammatically correct. It was inappropriate on the page. And but she was speaking, right? She was in short form in a familial, comfortable way in the classroom. And there was a Caucasian student who just, you know, I don't think they realized what they were doing, but they kind of made fun of the way that she spoke. They just, you know, and I just made it a point, you know, not to embarrass the Caucasian student and not to necessarily call it the Hispanic student, but I stopped and I said, I want us all to be very, very clear that people of color are bilingual, right? And I'm a master of the arts. And I'm still very proud to be a Black woman who speaks in dialect, because that is the language of my ancestors.
Yeah.
Right. And we were cut off from the actual tribal languages that we, you know, from Africa. But what we do have, right, is a deep Southern drawl that's very specific to us. Why would we be ashamed of that? And who tells you that it is improper? And so what I'm telling you is that I can do both. And so I let that student know that dialect is not a gauge for intelligence. And so that's why even when I write, I do write in dialect. I love the fact that that's what Zora Neale Hurston did, right? Zora Neale Hurston there were people who didn't like the fact that Zora Neale Hurston, you know, wrote in dialect, but they thought it cheapened the storyline. And she thought that, no, it's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Share the way that we actually relate to one another. So for me, that's really, really important that, you know, the way I speak in church is different than the way that I speak in front of my girlfriends or in front of my daughter or in front of you, or what. It has to be appropriate. But I'm a Black woman first who's very, very proud of that. And I'm not, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I do.
Yeah. So the short answer is, you know, I'm going to speak through text the way I feel comfortable speaking in that moment, because I'm so proud to be a Black woman.
No, I get it. And I like it. All right. So you wrote a book.
Mm-hmm.
What's the name of the book? And can you tell me what went into getting you to write a book? There are so many of us that say, oh, yeah, I want to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
It's 12 years later, I ain't wrote that book yet. But you actually made the move. So where did your journey start?
Well, I mean, it really was a blessing. So I told you I was teaching, right? I was teaching high school. I probably was like, I don't know, like maybe 9 or 10 years in or something like that. Maybe not even that long, but I was teaching. I wanted to make more money. Went to Prairie View A&M University so that I could get my master's degree. So I was teaching during the day, got my master's at night during like a cohort program. And when you get to the end of the program, they give you an option of either like you can take a couple classes, you know, this particular semester and take a test at the end of it to, you know, to prove that you know, whatever, you can get your master's degree, or you can go into 6 months of independent study and do a creative thesis. And all you got to do is say creative to a person like me, and also the word independent, right? Because I really like the autonomy of being able to close off and to really like get into a story myself. So I took the creative thesis option. And so for 6 months, I interviewed my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, because I knew that there was a really interesting story about her upbringing, and particularly her mother's story and how they made the migration from Texas, from East Texas to Indiana, where I was living at the time.
Oh.
And so we literally we were on, and not living at the time that I wrote the thesis, but, you know, I lived there for a long time. And so I interviewed her, and she gave me stories from 1918 through her lifetime. And so what I started seeing was like these patterns for Black women, like Black female pathology. And I started thinking like, man, you know what? It's so interesting. How does a Black woman teach another Black girl to value herself, right? So when you're under the arm of patriarchy and of racism, how do you teach a Black woman that she means something? What lessons do you pass down to her? How do you teach her, right? And so I really started looking at the evolution of womanhood and motherhood as it in regards to Black women or Black women. And so that became this thesis. And so the original thesis name was Velvet, the Burden of Melanin and Motherhood. And so I wrote all of it as though it was like this historic fiction book, but then I applied theoretical analysis to it so that we could really, really look at what Black women passed down from one generation to the next. And so what does that look like, right? You know, over, you know, from 1918 to about like 2013, because the book kind of stopped with me.
Wow.
And so it was published as just Velvet, right? Not the long theoretical name, but it was published as just Velvet. But yeah, that's how I, you know, came to write the book.
And we have all the major outlets to secure it now.
Yes, you can find it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, or, you know, you can find it wherever.
Did you do an audio version?
I did not do an audio version.
It?
You know, a couple people have asked me that, and I am interested in doing it. So I think it could happen. I published independently, and I was really, really sheepish and shy, and also not knowing who would find value in it at the time. So I probably was a little bit more like, you know, precarious in the way that I did it. And what I realized was like, I published the book in December of 2013. And then I spent the next 2 years, especially around Houston, just like doing literary talks, because because there were so many topics in the book. So they'd be doing like a literary talk or a panel on American standards of beauty. Well, that's talked about so much in the book that they would say, we need to bring this woman in. And so I just kept doing these little, you know, these little meetings, presentations and pop-ups where I would bring the book. But what I was really doing was discussing the fiction and then using the theoretical analysis from my master's thesis to be able to talk to women about things. And so what I found was people would come to me at the end of a talk and they'd be in tears, and it wasn't always Black women. It would be white women. It would be Black men. It would be, and what I realized is that everyone could relate to being told something that was the wrong version. It wasn't their version of the truth, basically. And so the book really, really talks about, you know, a mother can only mother based off of her fears and experiences. So, well, a Black man can also, right, he can relate to that. And a white woman can relate to that. Ultimately, the story was from a Black woman's perspective. But what we're saying is it's very, very difficult to raise a child without putting some of your stuff in them that is based on trauma and not necessarily truth.
Holly, this is you're sending me so many different directions here. I can't keep up. I am loving it. All right. I lived in Indiana for a little while.
What part of Indiana did you live in?
More specifically, so I worked over at Camp Atterbury, if you've heard of it. My apartment was in Bargersville, and my nights were spent in Circle City because my fraternity brothers were there, and they were the hospitality was just unmatched. We're gonna come back to the Circle City. So some of these viewers, listeners have never been to Indiana. We're gonna start with the first thing. Y'all be stepping. I know Chi-Town gets a lot of love, but what?
Well, I'm technically, so let me say this. I grew up in Waukegan, Illinois. I'm a Chicago girl. So, right.
Oh.
I grew up so I grew up there. My mom and my father met in Kokomo, Indiana, outside of it, you know, like maybe what is it, maybe 40 minutes away from Indianapolis, from the Circle City. So people kind of, it's funny how in Texas we don't realize, because that takes 12 hours to get out of Texas. We don't realize that like, these states are on top of each other, so you can drive down the street in another state. So I lived the majority of my young life in Illinois. And then, and then it wasn't until later on that I moved to Indiana, and that's how I ended up going to Purdue University, because it was in-state at that point. So I'm kind of both, and I ended up moving to Texas in 2006. I was like 25 years old.
Then tell everybody just a little bit about Indiana. Could you put on your tour guide hat and say, hey, y'all might be slipping on Indiana. If you ain't never been to the Midwest and check that out, you should go. What are the positives you'd like to offer to some of our people who've never been there?
So I'm going to say this, because I really feel like when you leave a city at a certain time, like I came to Houston when I was 25, so it really does feel like home. Like I became a woman there, What I miss, and what I will always miss about the Midwest in general, is Chicago area, Indianapolis, is the people. Yeah, you meet some really good people from the Midwest that are very, very direct. It's so funny because people always characterize like people from up north, right, as like, maybe a little cold and hard, and I don't think that's correct. I think that we're very direct. Yeah.
The three things I was going to circle hard for Indiana: stepping, dressing. Now both of those still apply to Chicago, but I want to make you mad there. Roller skating. Y'all,
that's all I did.
Was always packed. And then b-ball. Real talk, Indiana, them Indiana people, I think they come out the crib with a basketball when their feet hit the ground. So I wanted to give Circle City, Naptown, a little love.
The roller skating. It's funny how like ATL, I get it. We had the movie ATL, and it's all about skating and all. But I mean, we really have to look. I think wasn't Roll Bounce. I think was Chicago. I think Tyrone Dixon. They gave some love to Chicagoans for that. Like that was a lifestyle. Like people judge you based off of the way that you skate. You gotta
be able to move.
Yeah, if you were like
hold on the wall.
Listen, if you were a young boy and you couldn't skate, you weren't getting dates. You were getting no play from the girls if you could not skate. It was like, girl, did you see it? Girl, he can't even skate. And that, whatever that means.
Well, I can tell you what it was insinuated, because I went there as a man, and good thing I could skate, because I do know my fraternity brothers and friends that couldn't skate.
What fraternity? I feel like I know, but what fraternity?
I don't know. Let's see. There's a brick right behind me with a K in it. Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Started in Indiana, by the way, but I didn't know that. I wasn't gonna say anything since we was doing the indie talk. So Indiana's big. It's big to me. Yeah. Okay. I want to let's go back. I wanted to go forward. We're gonna come back forward, but I want to go back. Holly, I want to say we attribute. I don't want to say we judge or we lump, but we attribute some things to the high school experience. Who were you in high school? Did you get voted anything? Were you close to being voted anything? You missed it by a couple of votes.
Oh, I don't know. Like who the heck? It's interesting. That's a great question. I would love to ask other people. Like I'll say this. I was very consistent. People knew exactly. Like I've been this same person since I was in middle school. And what that means is I have always been about my business. I've always kind of been to myself. I'm 100% not a follower, which could mean some people thought I was weird.
Yes.
I was, I liked what I liked. I mean, when I was a kid, I was like kind of weird. Like I loved what I loved. I was obsessed with Jackie Wilson and Josephine Baker and the Holly Rents. Like what I liked is what I liked. And I was very serious. I was just a very serious student and just very serious about life in general. So I hope that's what people would remember about me. I was never like voted. Well, I was like on homecoming court or something, but I was never.
Okay, You should have led with that. That's kind of a big deal. That one's cool.
Is that a big deal? I don't know.
It is. It is. For that time, yeah. I mean, for that
I guess
time.
so, yeah. When I got to college,
more.
I was Miss Black and Gold. I will say that. And I don't know how you feel about that.
I like that. I'm gonna go one more back to high school, and then we coming back to that.
Yeah.
So high school senior year.
Yeah.
You just went through the lunch line. The lunch dude is looking at you, and he's like, "Hey, girl," boom, slop goes down on your tray. Maybe you brown bag, but stay with me. You came out of the lunch line with that tray. What table did you sit at? Who was at your table?
Oh, who was at my table? I'm going to be honest with you and say sometimes I wanted to be by myself. That's what I'm. So when I say that was weird,
no,
I had moments where like I would find, like I wasn't a rule breaker. I was a rule follower, but I would find a place where I could just be by myself. And then at some point I found a couple of girlfriends, and both of them were transplants too, and just a little bit different. And so I did have two girlfriends, Candace and Samia, where eventually that would be my table. But I wouldn't have called myself popular. I think people knew me because I was a very consistent personality, but I wouldn't have called myself like popular. We just know who she is and what she's about.
So let's come forward. Miss Black and Gold, where were you at? Where was that? And what are those colors? Some of us may not know. When, where, how, what is the Black and Gold?
Yeah, so I was at Purdue University. It was it was my freshman year. Maker. One thing that I haven't spoken a lot about here lately because it's been all about the film is that like I was a performer. My mom was a performer. My mom sang in bands for years, and so for me, I always outside of storytelling. I shouldn't even say outside of it because I wrote music too. I loved lyricism, and so I just wanted opportunities to perform. So at Purdue, they had something called the Black Voices of Inspiration. Which was a Black ensemble, and we traveled and we did all of the things, and I was a vocalist there. When Miss Black and Gold came around, there were two things that I was excited about. One was that they gave scholarship money if you won, and two, there was a talent competition so I could sing. The part that was a little bit awkward for me was I guess the pageantry of it all, like the swimsuit competition, and do you know what I mean? Like that portion of it. But I felt very comfortable in being able to answer questions and to be able to perform. So honestly, I was just using it as a way to get on stage and to make some. And then I did it and I won. And it was like, oh, okay. And then did I win? I think so. I won for Purdue, and then I think I won the state level, and then I don't think I won past that.
Okay.
I won past that.
We'll take state. That's good enough.
Yeah. And I had done a pageant before that. I was like Miss Elk of Indiana, and I went to Vegas and did that. So honestly, every time I did it, it was because I wanted to perform. But there was some conflicts. Like I would always be like, well, we gotta wear swimsuit. Like I couldn't understand what they had to do, but I did it at the time.
Yeah. I'm getting some spoken word vibes. Did you ever participate? Was that ever your thing?
I did not necessarily do spoken word in public, but I am definitely a poet.
So why not in public?
I don't know what it was. I don't know. I think I was shy for some reason when it came to my poetry. I don't know why.
At what point?
I was a little shy.
The rest of us have been on with you for 32 minutes. I'm sorry, I'm going to do some editing. I don't think I got to cut any of this stuff. We got good stuff here. Why did you not know yourself? Because I ain't picking up no shy vibes from you. Where exactly does the shy begin?
I don't think I'm shy in general, but I was a little bit shy about my poetry because, I think poetry is very intimate to me. And maybe it's the way that I was writing. That might be it. So, it depends on what you're using poetry for. So I can tell you a story about fictional characters. That's one thing.
Yeah.
A lot of my poetry was just more personal. And then when I write a stage play, I can create a character in my mind, and I can also then direct them into what I want to see. The poetry was me, and I had to deliver it. And so it was just different. It just felt different. And so I was a person who was like a regular at like poetry slams and would never take the mic.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, like I was there. I'm in all of the rooms, and I was inspired by it, and I would go home and write. But it was just, I used to feel like the poetry was just for me.
Well, I heard used to. So maybe in the future, some stuff could come to the light of day.
I will admit, this last year, someone finally got me to do a little bit of spoken word for the Me Versus Me. There's a popular DJ in Houston named Michelle McKnight. And she was like, I just want you to write something and come on and be able to not just talk about the film, but I want you to perform something. That was the first time that I'd ever done that. And that was recently.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a piece called Don't Call Me Strong, really talking about the Black female trope of being this strong Black woman. It's something that I don't want to say I detest it. I know that I know that I'm strong. I know that I'm Black, and I know that I'm a woman. But that piece was me being upset with what was happening with maternal mortality, with women around me, and even with myself. So it was personal, but I was able to get it out because it was about so many other people too. Sometimes Black women were so strong that we're not given an opportunity to heal. We're so strong that nobody helps, So we're raising our children and everybody else's. We're going out, slaughtering a hog and then cooking the bacon and cleaning up after it. And there's so much weathering of Black women. If there's an actual term, if anyone wants to look that up, the weathering of Black women, and the discrepancies in our cortisol levels from everything that Black women specifically carry. This is the reason why we can go into a hospital and not be believed. This is why we have so many Black women. We're 3 times more likely to die during childbirth, right, than our counterparts, because we're so strong that when we say we're in pain, nobody even believes us. And that's emotional and physical, right? And so, so I wrote this piece called, don't, effective immediately. Don't call me strong, because when you believe it's kind of like if you have children, how your children just believe that you're always going to be okay. So, and of course it's okay when they're young, right? But they're not accountable to anything else that they're doing because daddy's got it, mommy's got it, right? Because they just believe that you're so in control all the time that you never get an opportunity to be vulnerable or to even receive empathy from anyone. And so to me, that's what Black women are feeling constantly, and people pay you the compliment, man, you a strong Black woman. And sometimes I've heard that from people, and I know that they only said it to absolve themselves of any responsibility to treat me like a human being.
Oh,
that wasn't a compliment. You told me that. You said you're strong because what you said was, I'm not going to help you.
Holly, where's this performance at? This on YouTube? How we gonna get that? Because storytelling filmmaker. You don't pull this in. Well, it's gonna have to come out. If you say, "Oh, it ain't on digits," this is gonna have to come out again. You ain't heard the last.
It is. It's on my social media at Holly C Divine, and I was nervous about people seeing it. I was like, I've never done that. Like I give, I write and then direct other people to. So me performing in that way was just different. I can get up in front of thousands of people at an IU versus Purdue game and sing the national anthem, and that was comfortable to me. But poetry, speaking to people in that way, was uncomfortable for whatever reason.
I want to get back to the personal life and what we all may think, or they think, those in your circle. Personal life, you always directing at the family reunion? Are you the person that runs it? You the family reunion president? Do people have to tell you, girl, you ain't directing one of your films right now? Are you telling me what to do? Does any of this happen?
So I'm not okay. I'm gonna be honest. We being real right now. I do a little directing outside of that. I do a little life directing. I'll put it like this. I think that you know how you have your place or your role in your family.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I do.
And I think I've always been this way though. Like, you know, my mom jokes, you know, she's like, yeah, you were like 8 years old heating up a bottle for your baby sister. Like, things need to get done. And things need to get done. And so I'm the one, you know, I'm doing all the baby showers, and I'm the one, you know, planning all of the family stuff, and, you know, just,
So can you chill? Things. I had this written down. Can you chill? Because I knew the answer. So the question, I can show you this on a piece of paper. So then, can you chill? Can you fall back and just, if the train wreck is going to happen, can you just let it? Not stuff you're in charge of. I'm just saying, as a bystander.
No.
Can you?
No.
Okay. That's fair.
That's horrible though. Like,
no, it's not. No, it's not.
It is. My husband,
you said yourself, sometimes we need direction. Holly, it's like, so I've always been the class clown, right? But it's always like somebody says something, and then it's like everyone's moving in slow motion. And I'm like, ain't nobody gonna get that. Nobody's gonna jump on
Nobody
that.
sees it?
Wait, nobody? I'm in there. And so I jump on it. And and then everyone's like, oh, that's so funny. Yo, how you get that? You hilarious. And I'm always like, that had to be done.
So can I tell you why we're similar?
How?
Because you're curating an experience for people. You see the opportunity to curate an experience for people. Yes. It does mean that you care. It does mean that you are you know what your role is. You're clear on it. Like, you are curating experiences for folks. That's the way that I am too. Now, sometimes I do need to like chill out a little bit. I know that it's not going to happen, you know, like.
You're aware. You're aware.
Yeah, I'm super aware that, you know, it's funny how like it's kind of understood that if you brought it up to Holly, that she's probably going to take it. She's probably going to do it. You know what I mean? Like a conversation about like, I just got engaged is not just that conversation. It's, can you find the venue? Can you know, like it's more than that. Like, you told me for a reason. Or they didn't, and I'm just overdoing. Yeah, or they didn't. That's not why. And secretly, everybody's like, I wish I could just have a conversation with her without her taking over. One of the two. But
so Holly, when I found you, I heard you were making a film.
Yeah.
No, wait, hold on now. Some of us ain't never met a filmmaker. You do know that's kind of a big deal. Like, to all of us, we're kind of in awe. Like, you did what? I am in awe. I've had some viral people up here. I told you I'm about to have a pretty big dog person here shortly. A filmmaker. Just, it's so empowering. It's inspiring. Tell us about the film that you made, please.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. I mean, that's the most exciting thing that's happening in my life right now. It's like, you know,
it's pretty exciting to us.
It's really exciting. So I'll start by saying this. On Wednesday, June 19th, on Juneteenth, here in Austin at Stateside at the Paramount, we are screening my short film, If They Took Us Back.
See, look at her. She's directing. Holly, I be putting this stuff out whenever I can get to it. Now you done directed me. I gotta publish this thing. Like,
you gotta publish this thing quick because we gotta get these tickets sold out.
She ain't got no chill.
Yeah, no, not at all. But no, we're inviting the entire city to come out because, you know, the film first I'll tell you what the film is about. I'll say that I told you earlier in our conversation that I wrote my first screenplay, and that was for If They Took Us Back. It was feature length, meaning, you know, it was long. It was for a feature length film.
Yes.
For me, I like to be very self-aware and very realistic. I can write a screenplay and it can be the best story never told. Ultimately, I'm an unknown filmmaker. I'm an unknown writer. I realized that in order for me to ever get this out in front of people, I probably was going to have to condense it to something that was manageable for me to both budget and to create. And so what I thought was, I'm going to have to pay my dues, but I'm also going to have to literally pay for this film. So because that stage play never happened in 2020, I still had proceeds left from the year before. I had a budget, a nest egg that was there. And so I feel like once I got past the frustration of not being able to do a play, I feel like God was like, look, I've got this for you. Like once I got past it, I realized God was creating another path for me. So I was able to take that money and start building on really creating this film.
Oh.
And so what I did was I took this long screenplay and I condensed it so that it would be a short film, because that meant that I could shoot for a shorter period of time, right? And I would have fewer locations, like I would be able to afford it. And so I knew that this needed to be like 20 to 30 minutes. I also knew that it would be like a 2-year game, like the first year, like, you know, getting the film together, and the next year submitting to film festivals, right? And also doing our own screenings, right? Wow. So, it was about investing in myself. It was about learning myself. So I joined the Austin Film Society, and I ended up going to this mixer, right? They do these Monday mixers or something. And I remember thinking to myself, I really need to find some other producers, right? You need a full-blown team. It's much different than stage. So I had taken a pre-production course over at AFS. When you're a member, they allow you access to those courses. Took the course, you know, had a better understanding about what to do in the pre-pro stage. And I was like, okay, first things first, I got to find some producers. I've already created a pitch deck. I've already condensed it, you know, from this long, you know, whatever, 120 minutes. Now it's like closer to 2025. I got to find somebody to do it. And so I go into this mixer and I'm super nervous because I'm thinking like, I'm a Black woman getting ready to walk into a room where there's probably going to be mostly white men. And I'm going to say, hey, Texas, I want to talk about slavery and reparations, and you know what I'm saying? And I was just really nervous that I wouldn't be received well. And the opposite of that happened. I ended up meeting a man by the name of James Treacle Smith. And he heard the idea ultimately, and I'll share with you what the film is about. I ultimately said, I have this film called If They Took Us Back. It's an alternate history short film where in 1863, all formerly enslaved people of color, or Black folks, we should say, were returned to the shores of Africa. And then after a 160-year exile, they're asked to come back for reparations. Okay. And so the film is set in present day, right? Yeah. But what we're saying is you have to assume that we've been gone since 1863.
Yeah.
And we're being, you know, absence at this point has made the heart grow fonder. And what we have is a white America saying, please, we need the soul of America back. And they've been asking for years to please come back and accept these reparations, right? And so I'm thinking, well, who's going to want to do this? Right. And but James Treacle Smith, I remember we talked about it, and he had just gotten back from Galveston from shooting some sort of documentary on Juneteenth. And that, like, you know, I was like, OK, he's a white man, but a white man that cares about American history in the sense that these are all incredible American stories. And he, you know, so I said, well, I'll send you the script later on tonight when I get home. My husband and I had like a little date. I said, when I get home, I'll send you the script. Mm-hmm. Sent it to him. And when I tell you 12 hours later, this man called me and was like, we have to meet. We have to do it. And so he was like, we've been kind of looking for like a narrative project that was worth something, you know, and he was like, I read it. This is it. Let's meet. And so we met probably like not even a week later. And we immediately decided we wanted to put this together within like 7 to 8 months.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, hey, I have a story, I have a deck, and I have a budget, right? And they were able to continue to work with me further to help increase that budget. And so they've been with me since then. Not only have we created this film, but we've also founded Fourth Industrial Pictures. That's not something that I thought was coming with the deal, but we've created such a synergy in working with this film. What we're realizing is that, hey, we do want to create features, and we're just going to work as a collective to continue to do that. So there are 6 of us, 6 co-founders. We have Fourth Industrial Pictures based here in Austin. And I'm the chief development officer, but also one of the Filmmaker's writers who will be producing content.
Okay. This is like a movie itself. The movie about you getting the opportunity to make the movie. Did I just give you an idea for your next movie? Because it's the story that we all need to hear and see so that we know it can happen. I'm not saying this has got to be the block. Well, I don't know if it could or not. I'm not going to say it can't be, but why not see the roadmap? That's such a great story. I mean, you could do 30 to 45 minutes of the movie of you just being at that event, maybe taking the first couple laps before you run into Mr. Trinkle Smith.
Trinkle Smith. You know what's funny was when I was expecting. I mean, again, I'm a woman.
Yeah.
That's one barrier, and I'm Black, and the third barrier was that I had this story that might make people uncomfortable.
Yes. Oh, I know it well.
Yeah, and so I remember I did some laps, like you said, and didn't really know. Like I could tell they all kind of knew each other too, so that was like kind of another thing. I wasn't in the film. I wasn't on the film scene. There were just a lot of things that I was like, is somebody gonna take me seriously?
Yep.
All I can do is like lead with my sincerity and like hope that they get it, that I'm a storyteller first and that I'll learn all the other things. And I remember there was just like one seat left. There was like one seat left, and I went and like grabbed some cheese and some whatever else they had. Like I was just trying to busy myself so I didn't look awkward, even though I feel awkward. And I sit in this little space, and James is to my right. And to not totally waste my time, what I did was I started asking him questions. I said, so what do you do? Because I was just kind of thinking like he probably, maybe didn't care about what I was doing. So he starts, he starts off telling me about Juneteenth. He starts off telling me about these other documentaries that they're doing and that it was important to them to tell stories about underserved populations. So I'm thinking,
I know. Hey, that's that Philips light. I know they make a light bulb. That Philips light came on.
Yeah. It was just like, oh, okay then, and so, all right, and so I just talked to him further, and then I felt comfortable enough to be like, so this is what I have, this is, I know you do a lot of documentaries. This is a narrative short. And then that's when he was like, we're looking for this type of narrative short, right? We want to tell authentic, compelling stories about the underdog, about the underserved, about people of color. Like that's what we want. And so I was like, okay, when I send it to you, let's see if you still feel that way. And he absolutely did. And so, so that, I mean, here we are. Yeah.
For those who have the opportunity to be you, they come out of it. And I know what we all expect. We all expect them to start going around and trumpeting to everybody else. Oh, you could do it. You could do it. Holly, it's easy for you to say you done did it. How do you get past those people who feel that way? Girl, it's easy for you to say it. You did it. The rest of us, man, we can't even get off the couch. And I alluded to this earlier that, it took us 12 years to finally write a book. But now, it might take us 12 years to make a film. Holly, how you gonna get us moving?
So I'll say this. I think what trips up a lot of people, and even in the times where I've been shy or just didn't know what to do or whatever, we listen to so many people's stories who are on top, and we listen to so many people who took a traditional pathway, and then it intimidates us. Look, I don't really have any rules when it comes to creating art, except that we do it with integrity. So what that means is, I may not have a traditional background in directing. I may not have a traditional background in this or that. But what I do care about, what I know is important is I value my audience's time. I value their experiences. And so I would just encourage anyone is don't be intimidated. You know, you wake up and there's so much that I didn't know about filmmaking when I started. But then I had to think, well, there was so much that I didn't know about stage plays when I started writing stage plays. And there was so much that I didn't know about writing a book you got to do the thing for the first time you have to do it. And we're in the information age where you can get so much information online. You also, you can grab mentors or not, you can do the thing that you want as long as you value the people that you want to serve. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think that needs to be heard. You're not the first that is going down this path. So you can go it alone, or you can go get it's the age old adage, hard head makes a soft behind. So you got the OG triple fat OG named Holly, who's been through it. She's trying to put you up on game, but you're saying, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna do what I do. But there's got to be one or two things Holly could say that could help me turn a corner a little faster than without her. If I want to listen, if I want to use your experience.
And this is the thing, like I've tried to get, I'll say I did when I decided I was going to go into filmmaking before I actually joined AFS and did the pre-pro and looked for local producers. I started off by doing what I tell people not to do. I started off by finding filmmakers or people who were in film and TV who were really, really established, and then hoping that they would somehow give me my first big break. I'm not saying that doesn't work for some people, but it's less likely to work because it's kind of like the guy who wants to be a rapper. So he says, I just have to meet Jay-Z. And it's like, no, baby, Jay-Z is still trying to reach his next level. Jay-Z is still an artist. Jay-Z is he still has things that he's trying to accomplish. And so while everyone is trying to, and I didn't make this up, I remember hearing Issa Rae say this once. She was saying everybody's trying to network vertically, and they should be networking laterally. And so that means that you still work with people who you respect and who you trust and who are talented and all those things. I ain't cutting a single corner. I'm not working with anybody I don't believe in, but I stopped waiting on somebody to give me a break. Even when there were a couple of, I'll just say a couple of established filmmakers that I did have the opportunity to talk to, like that people that gave me the time of day, but they had things that they were doing too. And so they became mentors in the sense that they were kind, but I noticed that none of them could really tell me one specific path anyway. And so what I did was I took their advice, I took the advice, and a lot of it was less technical than what you would think. They telling me to believe in myself and to, what I'm trying to say, they couldn't make it happen for me. So could you imagine if I was still calling those same people? Because there are 2 or 3 of them. And I'm talking about people majorly in the business. Could you imagine if I was still saying, can you read this again? And do you think you got somebody who will, who will read it? What did they say? Okay, they said next month. Okay, can we set a meeting for next month? I can do that. Or I can let them be a creative with their team. I can take, some of the things that they've taught me, but but let them be a creative. And I'm going to go over here and be a creative with my team. And what we can do is we can rise together. I just can't keep depending on somebody else's success to create my own. And I think we got to stop doing that. So meet your idols. Like if you're a dancer and you know what I'm saying, and you love this particular, meet her, get what you can get, but don't think that your success don't stop working because what you're doing is you're trying to call this person and find ways to LA to be with them, and stop waiting on them. Everybody has their own specific rise, and very few people I've spoken to are just like, I met Shonda Rhimes and then that's how I became a writer. I met her and told her, and then she was like, yeah, come. It doesn't work that way.
No,
you got to create something of value yourself.
Yeah.
And so that meant I had to spend some of my own money. That meant I was ghostwriting articles and everything to add to the budget. I was doing whatever I had to do. I'll ghostwrite an article about something that I'll never get credit for, that I don't care about, just so that I can get over here and write something that I do care about.
Yes.
And then what I'll do is I'll find an incredibly talented DP. I'll find incredibly talented wardrobe, makeup artists, producers, right? I'm gonna get an incredibly talented team. But we're all looking for ways to come together and make something beautiful. We're all looking for our next break. And just because someone hasn't broken yet does not mean that they're not supremely talented. So what's wrong with working with people on your level as far as experience goes?
Yes. Yes.
So I think we just got to get away from that. So like I've had people even call me and ask me, can we get on a call every week and you teach me how to write this and how do you do? And I've told, I'm not against it. Like I would love to help people, but I want to be really, really clear that you can do this on your own. You don't have to do it the way that I did it.
Yeah.
The only advice I really have for people is to be consistent. If you want to write, set aside time to do it the same way.
You got to get those reps.
Yeah, but I'm not going to tell you that you have to start this way and create an outline. Like, I don't know if that works for you. I do what I do. I don't know if it starts off on a napkin for you first.
Yeah.
You start off with voice memos. Like, who cares? Care about quit, worrying so much about the process and worry more about creating something of value. However you get there is how you get there.
Holly Charles Pearson. I mean, if y'all are just listening, I mean, you saw the intro. Holly, I told you, I told you off air pre-production that I thought it was gonna fly when I got the good ones. Before you know it, we are there. How do people get in contact with you? How do they follow you on social media? They almost always want that. You'll be tagged in this, but if they just jumped in and they're listening, how can we?
Please. So I would love to get to know people more. I'm not a person that gets on and like, if you follow me on social media, I'll say I'm not a person that like talks into the camera and tells a whole lot about their personal lives. I'd rather be somewhere researching, like, you know what I mean? And bringing a new project to you. And so I would love to have, each and every person, under the sound of my voice, like come and follow me so that we can really, continue to create this community. But I'm at Holly C. Divine on IG for this particular project that I'm asking you, everyone to come out to in Donato. I really hope that you have time on Wednesday to come out with us. We're at If They Took Us Back. And so that will tell you everything that you need to know about the film. I want to tell you more about the event in the sense that this is not just coming out and watching a short film. Because some people are like, how do you watch a short film? Do you go in for 30 minutes and then you leave? That's not at all. We have created an immersive cinematic event for everyone. And when I say that, I mean, so we have a soundtrack like you would with a feature film. If you've heard of Daniel Fears, an incredible soul singer, he's our featured soundtrack artist. Right?
I have heard of him. Yeah,
he just got his own day in the city of Houston, I'm saying Houston, in the city of Austin, June 8th, right? He's incredible. I heard him 2 years before I ever, started making this film. And I was like, I don't know what I would do with this guy, but he's incredible. And he created such a beautiful palette for us. He'll be performing to open up the event. We also wanted to make sure that we showed love to Black creatives in general. I'm a Black creative, and I believe in the other Black creatives. So we have local Black vendors that will be on site, down to the popcorn that you eat in the theater. It's going to be soul popped. We'll be out there. So we'll make sure that we have soul food popcorn for people to celebrate the holiday as they're watching the film. We also wanted to document the process. Like, what does it look like, the intersectionality, being Black and female, creating this film? So we documented the process, and we have a mini documentary that will air right after the actual screening. And then we also wanted to make sure to bring in locally in both Austin and Houston, what African-American history professors do we have at the local HBCUs? And so in Austin, we have Dr. Elaine Hudson from HT. from Houston Tillotson that's going to come over, and she'll be able to level set right at the beginning to discuss like what the heck Juneteenth is before we actually bombard you with this hypothetical version of the story. We also were being emceed by Dr. Nicole Cross, who just got married and is now Dr. Nicole Clark. She's at Spectrum News, and we know her as an award-winning journalist, so she'll be there because, again, I wanted to make sure that it was very specific to that community wherever we screen. And lastly, the entire cast is traveling in and will be there to answer questions. We will have a Q&A where the audience can come up and ask questions too. And again, it was me thinking about my audience and valuing their experiences. Many of us have never been to a film festival, right, where they could actually see the actors immediately afterwards, and ask them questions directly. So it was important to me for Juneteenth that all of these things were available at once. And so you're going to watch the film, but you're going to be immersed in what it means to be Black and free, and to be Black and excellent, and to be Black and creative. You're going to see all of these things in one event. It's about a 2.5 hour run of show. But when you come, you'll leave saying, I really did celebrate Juneteenth because I learned some things, right? I was entertained, I was informed, and I was inspired. All of these things happened under one umbrella. So when I left, I had conversation, right, about Black freedom. And the point of this film is to really allow everyone, Black, white, whatever, to really start to reevaluate the value and the contributions of African Americans in this country. Because when you imagine 160 years without our contributions, without our innovation, without our food, without our music, without our style, without all of the things that in some ways make Western civilization cool, right? I do think that we will be welcomed back in another way. I think that it really makes us all readjust our attitudes about what it means to be Black, right? And I really want to provide that during Juneteenth, that it wasn't just a day of freedom, but y'all had everyone else had the privilege of us being free in this country.
Yeah.
Y'all had the privilege of being here with us.
Oh yeah, I'm going now. I'm going now. You ain't even got to worry about it. I may not be able to get to you. I know you're going to be all over. Your hair's going to be on fire. Everybody's going to be pulling you.
No, you make sure that you come.
There'll be pics and you'll be like, oh, he did make it.
No, you make sure that you come. Like, let's make sure that we, see each other and take a picture on the red carpet. We're encouraging everyone to dress Afro chic or whatever that means to you, right? Because there are people who are not of color who are associated with this project. So if that means we're wearing all Black and wearing, metallic jewelry, if that means wearing red, black, and green, if that means, right, that you're wearing brocades and textures and different things like that, we want you to really come out and celebrate Juneteenth, celebrate Black folks.
All right, just making a note now to get my fit tight.
Get your fit together, fit checked, right?
All right. Yeah. Holly, oh my gosh. This was exactly what I thought it was going to be. I needed this. I wanted this. I didn't know it was going to be like this. And
can I say, I really appreciate your energy, brother. I think when you're a creative, any creative that's listening to me right now, it's exhausting because you're doing what you love, but you constantly have to prove that it's worthy. You're a salesman, even if you don't want to. And so it means something to talk to people who actually value what you have to say. And so what you're doing is a service to the community that not just the community, but even just the creative in general. The way you've made me feel in listening and inquiring about my life in this process, it means something. So I appreciate that.
No, thank you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate that you gave me the opportunity to have a conversation with you. And thank you for talking with Donato.
Absolutely.
Everyone, please follow, please like. Let's support Holly Charles Pearson. Thanks again for joining us, Holly. Have a great night.
Bye, everyone.